So why is it that some people absolutely break under extreme pressure, while others, they somehow manage to find the strength to endure the truly unimaginable? It's a profound question about human resilience, right? And the answer, it turns out, really isn't about physical strength at all. It's about what happens in the mind when literally everything else is stripped away. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the incredible, completely timeless wisdom found in Viktor Frankl's seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning. We're going to trace a journey that starts in the absolute darkest crucibles of human history, the Nazi concentration camps, and emerges with some incredibly practical psychological insights that you can actually apply today to find purpose, even during life's toughest challenges. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. That's a quote from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, but Viktor Frankl actually saw it tested in the ultimate, tragic laboratory of the Holocaust. The core premise here is that meaning isn't just some nice, airy, philosophical idea. It is the actual, literal psychological fuel required to survive immense hardship. When the how of your life is brutal, your why is the anchor that keeps you going. Section 1, The Crucible. Lessons from the Abyss. Before Frankl could codify his psychological theories, he had to live them. We're talking about his horrific experiences in camps like Auschwitz and Dachau. He went in not just as a prisoner, but as a psychiatrist observing the human mind under extreme trauma. He identified 3 distinct psychological stages inmates went through. Stage 1 is shock. Imagine that very first day. People were entirely stripped of their personal possessions, their hair, their names, their dignity. The mind's initial reaction to this sudden, violent dehumanization is extreme psychological shock and disbelief. Some even experienced what Frankl called a delusion of reprieve, which is this desperate coping mechanism where they believed, right up to the very end, that they might somehow be saved. But, that shock doesn't last forever. It inevitably fades into stage 2, apathy. To survive the daily, unrelenting torment, the forced labor, the constant presence of death around them, the prisoner's mind simply had to adapt. They became completely emotionally detached. They developed this profound numbness, a regression to the absolute most basic survival instincts. Frankl noted that normal social structures and values crumbled, not because the inmates were inherently evil, but simply because sheer survival demanded it. Emotional death basically became a prerequisite for physical survival. Then there's the final stage, depersonalization. And surprisingly, this actually hits after liberation. You'd think freedom brings instant joy, right? But Frankl observed that survivors felt entirely detached from the world. They couldn't just snap back to normal. Frankl himself noted feeling totally unable to experience joy, feeling as if he didn't really belong to the world anymore. The psychological scars of the abyss ran incredibly deep. But through all of this unimaginable darkness, Frankl arrives at a staggering realization. He said, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." The absolutely crucial point here is that while we cannot always control our environment, and remember, Frankl was in an environment of total physical subjugation, our internal response, our attitude, remains completely, undeniably our own. Section 2, The Revelation. Logotherapy and the Will to Meaning. Frankl pivoted from this historical trauma to formalize a psychological approach he'd actually begun developing before the war. He called it logotherapy. The word logos is Greek for meaning, so this literally translates to healing through meaning. To really wrap our heads around logotherapy, we kind of have to compare it to the psychological heavy hitters of Frankl's time. Sigmund Freud believed human motivation was driven by the will to pleasure, gratifying our basic instincts. Alfred Adler argues for the will to power, our drive to overcome inferiority and gain control. But Frankl completely disrupted this. He proposed the will to meaning. He argued that our primary fundamental drive isn't chasing happiness or asserting dominance at all, it's finding true meaning and purpose in our lives. Now, what happens when that will to meaning gets frustrated or blocked? Well, Frankl brilliantly called this the existential vacuum, a state of total meaninglessness. And this isn't just some old historical concept. Today, even when all our basic needs are met, food, shelter, comfort, if we lack a why, we fall right into this empty void. Frankl saw this manifesting as anxiety, depression, and burnout. It is literally the modern crisis of feeling completely empty despite having everything. Section 3, 3 Paths to Purpose. So, how do we fix this? How do we fill the vacuum? Frankl didn't just diagnose the problem. He provided a really actionable framework. Logotherapy basically offers us 3 clear paths to finding meaning. 1. Creating a work or doing a deed. 2. Experiencing something or encountering someone, which primarily means love. And 3, the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. Let's break each of these down and see exactly how Frankl lived them. Path 1 is creating a work. Meaning is deeply connected to what we contribute to the world. When Frankl entered the camp, his life's work, a manuscript on his psychological theories, was confiscated and destroyed. What kept him alive was the burning, absolute desire to rewrite that book. He literally found purpose in the hope of sharing logotherapy with the rest of the world. He had a task that only he could complete. Then we have path 2, love. Now, Frankl had no idea if his wife was even alive or dead while he was in the camps, but to endure the freezing marches and the brutal labor, he held on to her image. He had these deep, vivid, imagined conversations with her. He realized that love goes far, far beyond the physical presence of the beloved person. It finds its deepest meaning in their spiritual being. By encountering someone through love, even just in his mind, he found a profound source of meaning. And that brings us to the third and, honestly, the hardest path. Frankl believed that attitudinal values actually rank higher than creative or experiential ones. What does that mean? It means when suffering is completely unavoidable, we're talking an incurable disease, a devastating loss, imprisonment, we still have a choice. Facing inevitable pain with dignity, with courage, and an upright attitude is considered by Frankl to be the absolute highest form of human achievement. The suffering itself isn't meaningful, but the way we choose to carry it absolutely can be. Section 4, Finding Meaning Today. Now, let's bridge Frankl's intense historical lessons directly to you. How does this apply to your everyday career struggles or modern stressors? All right, so it all starts with a concept called noodynamics. Frankl completely rejected the idea that the goal of life is to find total stress-free comfort or pure homeostasis. Instead, he argued for noodynamics, a healthy, necessary tension between who we currently are and the meaningful goal we're striving to reach. A fulfilling life actually embraces the struggle. If you're a student, an athlete, or just someone trying to build a career, that tension you feel isn't a sign to stop. It's the natural friction of personal growth. This actually leads to a massive paradigm shift in how we view success. If you pursue happiness directly, if you chase momentary validation, pure pleasure, or try to force joy, it just slips through your fingers and often leaves you feeling empty. Frankl teaches us that true happiness cannot be pursued. It must ensue. It is a natural byproduct of pursuing meaning. When you dedicate yourself to a cause greater than yourself or to another person, fulfillment just follows naturally. Now, there's a vital balance we have to strike here: freedom and responsibility. Frankl warned that human freedom is in real danger of degenerating into mere arbitrarianism unless it's lived in terms of responsibleness. He actually made this famous suggestion that the Statue of Liberty on the East Coast of the United States should be supplemented by a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast. Freedom is simply the condition that allows us to be responsible for our choices and to the people around us. So I want to leave you with a final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. It's a complete inversion of how we normally think. Stop asking what you expect from life. Stop asking why life isn't giving you what you want. Instead, flip it around. Ask yourself, what is life expecting from you today? What is the unique task, the unique love, or the unique suffering that only you can respond to? Take responsibility for that answer, and you will find your meaning.